build yourself until they notice. Introduction. There comes a time in every life when the hunger to be seen collides with the reality of being invisible. You put in the work, you show up with heart, yet the world carries on as if you do not exist. That silence can feel like rejection. It can feel like failure. But the truth is, obscurity is not your enemy. It is your opportunity. It is the quiet space where you have room to grow, to make mistakes without the spotlight, to craft your character and sharpen your skills until you are no longer hoping for recognition. You are commanding it simply by who you have become. We live in an age obsessed with visibility. Everyone wants to be noticed now. Social media teaches us that validation comes in the form of likes, follows, and applause. But what happens when no one claps? What happens when the crowd does not come? Too many give up in that gap, believing they are not enough because the world has not confirmed them. Yet the truth is, greatness has never been built in the echo of applause. It is built in the silence of discipline, in the hidden hours when no one is watching, in the daily decision to keep showing up, even when recognition feels like a distant dream. To build yourself until they notice is not about arrogance or desperation. It is not about chasing the spotlight or bending yourself into what you think the world wants to see. It is about cultivating such depth of character, skill, and resilience that the evidence of your growth becomes undeniable. You are not begging for recognition. You are becoming so consistent, so excellent, so prepared that attention is the natural response. Recognition becomes a byproduct, not the goal. This book is not about shortcuts or overnight success. It is about the patient, deliberate journey of transformation. It is about learning to value process over applause and mastery over attention. Because when you choose to build day after day with patience and discipline, you begin to carry a weight that cannot be ignored. The world may not notice today or tomorrow or even next year. But if you keep building, they will, because the world cannot ignore someone who has truly become. The truth is, people rarely see the roots, only the tree. They celebrate the fruit but forget the years of unseen growth beneath the soil. This is why obscurity is not a punishment. It is preparation. The time you spend hidden, working in silence, struggling in private, is the season where your roots are growing deep. If you skip that season, you may rise quickly, but you will fall just as fast. But if you embrace it, if you build yourself in the hidden places, when your moment comes, you will not only rise, you will stand. This book is an invitation to stop craving recognition and start craving growth. It is a challenge to stop measuring yourself by how many are watching and start measuring yourself by how faithfully you are building. It is a reminder that nothing powerful is ever built overnight, and no one becomes unforgettable by accident. You must make the daily decision to invest in yourself, to outlast the doubts, to push through the silence, and to create such undeniable value that one day the world cannot look away. So, let us begin the journey. Let us enter the silence not as a place of defeat, but as a place of formation. Let us build with patience, with vision, and with faith. Because the truth is simple, if you build yourself with discipline and resilience, they will notice. Not because you asked them to, but because you gave them no choice. Chapter 1. The Hidden Season. Why obscurity is a gift. Every person who has ever done something remarkable has first walked through the quiet corridors of obscurity. It is the season when the phone does not ring, when no invitations arrive, when your work feels like it vanishes into the air without echo or applause. It is the period when you begin to question whether you are moving at all, or if all your effort is simply a rehearsal for a stage that will never come. Yet what feels like a cruel silence is in fact the most sacred space of preparation you will ever know. The hidden season is where the foundation of greatness is laid, and without it, nothing lasting can be built. Most people fear obscurity. They believe that being unseen means being unworthy. They interpret silence as rejection and invisibility as proof that they are not meant to succeed. This misunderstanding drives many to chase attention prematurely, to trade depth for visibility, to broadcast half-baked dreams in hopes of validation. But what they fail to realize is that attention gained too early can be more dangerous than no attention at all. It can expose cracks in your character and holes in your preparation. What you cannot carry in private, you will never be able to sustain in public. And so obscurity, as painful as it feels, is not punishment. It is mercy. It is the universe giving you room to grow your roots before you are asked to bear the weight of fruit. Think about the bamboo tree, which spends years beneath the soil before it ever breaks the surface. For 4 or 5 years, it looks as though nothing is happening, as if all the watering, all the care is wasted. But in reality, it is forming a complex root system underground, a network strong enough to sustain its explosive growth. When it finally emerges, it can grow several feet in just a matter of weeks. Yet that rapid growth is only possible because of the long, hidden years of preparation. Human growth is no different. The hidden years are not wasted years. They are the years that make the visible possible. In your hidden season, you are free to make mistakes without the weight of an audience. You are free to practice without judgment, to learn without performance pressure, to experiment without fear of headlines. You are shaping yourself in a laboratory of silence, where the lessons cut deep and the growth is real. This season strips away illusions. It tests your motives. Are you building because you truly believe in what you are doing, or because you crave someone to clap for you? If your answer is recognition, you will not last the silence. But if your answer is conviction, you will endure, and that endurance will transform you. What obscurity demands of you is discipline. In the absence of applause, will you still rise early? Will you still write the pages, practice the skills, train your body, sharpen your mind? Will you invest in yourself when there is no evidence that anyone cares? The hidden season asks you to choose commitment over comfort. Many give up here because they cannot stomach the quiet. They want quick results, instant validation, proof that their effort matters. But the truth is, growth rarely gives immediate feedback. A seed does not sprout overnight. And so the hidden season separates the pretenders from the committed, the dreamers from the doers. There is also a purity in obscurity that will never exist again once you are seen. In this season, your work belongs to you alone. Your vision is untouched by outside voices. You are not distracted by the weight of expectation or the noise of critics. You are free to build purely for the sake of becoming. That purity is a gift, for once recognition comes, it brings both praise and pressure. The same people who applaud will also criticize, and the same eyes that admire will also judge. If you cannot handle the quiet of obscurity, you will not be able to withstand the noise of recognition. So instead of resenting this season, embrace it. Treat obscurity as your training ground. Let it refine your habits, deepen your skills, and harden your resilience. Use it to prove to yourself that your commitment is real. See it as an opportunity to prepare for the weight of the stage you hope to stand on. Too many sabotage their own destiny by rushing the process, by seeking shortcuts to visibility. But anything rushed is rarely strong, and anything fragile collapses under pressure. The ones who last are those who allowed themselves to be shaped in the dark. When you shift your perspective, obscurity becomes liberating. You realize that the world's silence is not indifference but space. Space to grow without interruption, space to fail without spectacle, space to find your voice before it echoes across a room. This is why the hidden season is not a curse but a classroom. It teaches you discipline, patience, humility, and authenticity. It reveals whether you truly love the work or only the idea of being admired for it. And it is in this classroom that you build the roots that will one day hold the weight of recognition. The truth is, no one escapes obscurity. Every champion, every leader, every artist and innovator has walked through this silent passage. They have endured the lonely mornings, the unanswered prayers, the invisible labor. They have wrestled with doubt in the dark and pressed forward anyway. What separates them from those who quit is not talent or luck, but perspective. They understood that obscurity was a necessary part of their story, not the end of it, and because they embraced it, they were able to emerge stronger, ready, undeniable. If you find yourself in that hidden season now, take heart. You are not forgotten. You are not failing. You are being prepared. The silence around you is not evidence of insignificance, but evidence of growth happening beneath the surface. Keep building, even when no one sees. Keep watering your seed, even when the soil looks barren. One day, the roots you have grown in silence will make possible a rise that no one can ignore. And when that day comes, the world will not only notice what you have become, they will respect the depth that only comes from years of building unseen. Chapter 2. The Foundation of Self. Identity before recognition. Before you can build a life that others notice, you must first build a self that you recognize. Many people rush to seek validation without ever truly knowing who they are. They put their worth into the fragile hands of strangers, measuring their value by applause and attention. But recognition without identity is a hollow victory. It may feel good for a moment, but it never lasts, because if you do not know yourself, the world will define you, and when the world defines you, it can also destroy you. The foundation of growth is always identity. Who are you when no one is looking? What do you believe about yourself when the noise of the crowd is absent? The truth is that external recognition cannot fill the void of internal confusion. If you rise into visibility without clarity, you will spend your days shifting to meet the expectations of others. You will bend to every opinion, conform to every trend, and in the process lose the essence of who you are. That is why building yourself until they notice must begin with building the self you are becoming. Identity is not simply a list of traits or titles. It is not your job, your role, or your reputation. It is the deep-rooted awareness of your values, your vision, and your purpose. It is the inner compass that guides your choices long before anyone affirms them. Without this compass, recognition is dangerous. Applause can become addictive, and criticism can become crippling. But when you know who you are, you cannot be swayed so easily. You can accept recognition without being enslaved by it, and you can endure criticism without being broken by it. It can help to recognize that all you get is what you get. You do not get perfection. It gets better, and you do not get. This is why so many who achieve fame quickly crumble. They built their platform before building their person. They chased the appearance of success before cultivating the substance of character. They mistook recognition for validation, and when the applause faded, so did their sense of worth. If you are to build yourself until they notice, you must refuse this trap. You must decide that your first audience will always be yourself. Your first approval must come from the quiet conviction that you are living in alignment with your values. To build a solid identity, you must be willing to confront the lies you have believed. Many people carry the weight of labels from childhood, from society, from failure, or from rejection. They live under ceilings placed upon them by the opinions of others. But to grow into the person you are meant to be, you must break free from those ceilings. You must unlearn what the world has told you about your limits and discover for yourself what you are capable of. Building identity is not about becoming what others expect. It is about becoming what you were created to be. The hidden season we spoke of before is the perfect environment for this kind of inner work. In silence, you have the freedom to ask questions about who you are, what you value, and what you want to create with your life. The absence of recognition allows you to experiment, to discover your strengths and confront your weaknesses. It is where you strip away the false layers and begin constructing a foundation strong enough to withstand both obscurity and recognition. If you do not do this work in private, you will collapse in public. One of the most important truths about identity is that it cannot be borrowed. You cannot become someone else's version of greatness. You can be inspired by others, but you cannot copy them. What makes you unforgettable is not your ability to mimic, but your courage to be authentic. The world notices originality because it is rare. When you build yourself with authenticity, you no longer need to chase recognition. Recognition finds you because truth resonates, and authenticity has a weight that imitation never can. Establishing identity also requires discipline. It is not enough to declare who you are, you must live it. Your daily actions either confirm or contradict your identity. If you claim to value growth, your choices must reflect that value. If you say discipline matters, your habits must prove it. Identity without action is imagination. Action transforms belief into reality, and the more consistent your actions become, the more your identity solidifies. Over time, you are no longer trying to become someone, you are simply living as who you are. It is tempting to believe that recognition will finally help you discover yourself, but the opposite is true. Recognition only magnifies what already exists. If your foundation is weak, recognition will expose the cracks. If your identity is shallow, recognition will make the emptiness louder. But if your foundation is strong, recognition will only highlight your depth. It will reveal to others what you already know about yourself. That is why identity must come before recognition. Without it, the attention you crave could be the very thing that destroys you. When you know yourself, you no longer fear being overlooked. You realize that recognition does not make you valuable, it only makes your value visible. You stop rushing the process because you understand that the work you are doing within yourself is the most important work of all. You no longer see obscurity as rejection, but as a gift of clarity, and you begin to live from a place of stability, no longer tossed by every wave of opinion. The foundation of self is what makes everything else possible. It is the bedrock upon which discipline, patience, mastery, and legacy will be built. Without it, your building will crumble. With it, you will stand firm no matter how high you rise. So before you ask the world to notice, make sure you have first noticed yourself. Before you demand recognition, make sure you are already living in alignment with your value. Because the truth is simple, when you build a strong identity, recognition becomes inevitable. The world cannot ignore someone who knows exactly who they are. Chapter 3. Vision that pulls you forward. Every journey of transformation begins with a vision. Without it, discipline collapses, patience wears thin, and obscurity feels unbearable. Vision is the picture of what could be, the pull that drags you forward when everything in you wants to stop. It is not a vague wish or a fleeting dream, but a deep conviction about who you are becoming and what you are building. Without vision, life drifts. With vision, even the hardest seasons take on meaning. Vision is not about fantasy or daydreaming, it is about clarity. It is about seeing with the eyes of the mind what does not yet exist in reality. It allows you to endure the present because you are anchored in the future. A person with vision can walk through the desert with confidence because they know where the river lies. A person without vision may have every resource, yet still waste it all because they have no idea where they are going. Building yourself until they notice requires you to craft a vision so strong that it becomes impossible to ignore, not just by others, but first by yourself. Too many people attempt to grow without direction. They work hard, but their effort is scattered. They chase opportunities, but none align. They are busy, but not purposeful, and so at the end of the day, they remain stagnant. Vision eliminates this waste. It filters distractions. It helps you distinguish between what looks good and what is good for you. With vision, you can say no with confidence because you are already clear on what you are saying yes to. Crafting vision requires honesty. You cannot build yourself into someone you do not truly want to become. If your vision is rooted in impressing others, it will collapse under the weight of reality. True vision must come from within, from your deepest values and desires, not from borrowed expectations. Ask yourself what kind of life will make you feel fully alive. Ask what contribution you want to make, what legacy you want to leave. Let the answers shape the vision that becomes your anchor. Vision also requires courage. It will often look unreasonable to those around you. People will tell you that it is too big, too bold, too unrealistic. They may laugh or dismiss you because they cannot see what you see, but that is the nature of vision. It belongs to you before it belongs to anyone else. Others will only believe when your actions prove it real. That is why vision is not for approval, it is for direction. Hold it firmly even when no one else understands, for in time the results of your persistence will silence the doubts. The power of vision is that it changes your relationship with difficulty. Without vision, every obstacle feels like a wall. With vision, every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. The struggle no longer feels pointless because you know where it is taking you. You endure pain because you know it is shaping the person who can carry your dream. You embrace sacrifice because you know it is purchasing a future that is worth the cost. Vision transforms what others see as suffering into training, what others see as delay into preparation. Vision also pulls discipline out of you. Left to yourself, motivation will fail. There will be days when you do not feel like showing up, when excuses sound louder than goals, but vision reminds you why you began. It whispers of the future waiting for you if you remain faithful. It convinces you to keep moving not because the present is easy, but because the future is worth it. This is why those without vision give up quickly. They cannot see beyond the difficulty. Those with vision endure because their eyes are fixed on something greater. Building a vision that pulls you forward also demands detail. A vague dream produces vague results. You cannot simply say you want success or greatness. What does success look like for you? What kind of greatness do you envision? The clearer you are, the stronger the pull will be. Write it down. Picture it often. Let it live in your imagination until it becomes more real than your current circumstance. The mind, once saturated with vision, begins to shape reality to match it. Your choices, your habits, your focus all start to align because the picture is too clear to ignore. But vision without action is fantasy. It must be translated into daily steps, into decisions that slowly carve out the future you desire. Vision is not about waiting for a perfect moment. It is about creating momentum with small, consistent acts. Every choice you make either feeds or starves your vision. Every day you either step closer to it or drift further away. The person you are becoming is shaped not by your intentions, but by your pattern. Vision makes you accountable to yourself, because every action is weighed against the picture of who you want to be. Another truth about vision is that it evolves. The picture you hold today may expand tomorrow as you grow. That does not mean you were wrong, only that you are becoming more capable of seeing the full landscape. Do not fear this evolution. Allow your vision to stretch as you stretch, to deepen as you deepen. What matters is not that it remains the same, but that it continues to pull you forward. Stagnant vision is as dangerous as no vision at all. Keep it alive by feeding it with growth, reflection, and renewed clarity. The greatest leaders, creators, and builders were all people of vision. They were not driven primarily by recognition, but by a burning picture of what they were building. They endured mockery, loneliness, failure, and delay because their vision was stronger than the noise around them. And in time, the world noticed not because they asked for attention, but because the reality of their vision became undeniable. They built themselves until recognition had no choice but to follow. If you are serious about building yourself, you must decide what vision will guide you. Do not settle for a dream that belongs to someone else. Do not settle for smallness because it is safe. Create a vision that makes you both excited and afraid, one that forces you to grow into a stronger version of yourself. Let it live in your heart so powerfully that it directs your steps even in the darkest seasons. When you have vision, you cannot be stopped because you are no longer moving only for today, you are moving for the future, waiting on the other side. Chapter 4. Discipline, the silent architect of greatness. Talent may open a door, but discipline is what keeps it open. Inspiration may light a spark, but discipline is what keeps the fire alive long after the excitement has faded. Every person who has risen to greatness has done so not because of sudden bursts of motivation, but because of consistent discipline practiced day after day, often in obscurity, often without applause, and often without immediate reward. Discipline is the silent architect that constructs the life you dream of, brick by brick, until the structure becomes undeniable. Discipline is not glamorous. It does not look like lightning bolts of genius or grand moments of glory. It looks like repetition, like waking up earlier than you want to, like doing the work when your body is tired and your mind would rather quit. It looks like choosing focus over distraction, order over chaos, and progress over excuses. Discipline is rarely praised in the moment, but it is always visible in the results. The people you admire, the ones who inspire you with their excellence, are not extraordinary because of some secret formula. They are extraordinary because they made ordinary decisions with extraordinary consistency. Without discipline, dreams remain distant. You can envision greatness, you can speak about it, you can even plan for it, but if you do not have the discipline to act daily, your vision will wither into regret. The gap between desire and reality is bridged by discipline. It is the mechanism that turns intention into achievement, the force that translates hope into results. Without it, you will drift endlessly, wishing for a life that will never come. With it, you will progress steadily, even if slowly, toward becoming a version of yourself that cannot be ignored. The true test of discipline is not how well you perform when you are motivated, but how steadfast you remain when motivation dies. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls with moods, circumstances, and seasons. Discipline is not emotional. It is a decision that stands even when your feelings resist. Discipline is what carries you when motivation abandons you. It whispers to you in the dark hours when no one is clapping, reminding you of the vision you carry. It tells you to keep moving, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. Discipline also requires sacrifice. You cannot hold on to every comfort and expect to grow. You cannot indulge every impulse and still hope for excellence. Discipline asks you to trade what you want now for what you want most. It demands that you say no to shortcuts, distractions, and temptations, so you can say yes to growth, mastery, and long-term success. This sacrifice is painful, which is why most people avoid it. But what they fail to understand is that the pain of discipline is always less than the pain of regret. You can suffer now with purpose, or you can suffer later with sorrow. The choice is yours. In the hidden season, discipline is your closest ally. When no one is watching, it is discipline that ensures you are still building. It is discipline that gets you up when no one would blame you for staying down. It is discipline that keeps you practicing, learning, sharpening, and preparing long before the spotlight ever arrives. When recognition finally comes, it will not be because of a single burst of effort, but because of years of unseen consistency. The applause will be loud, but the architect of that applause will be quiet discipline. End of quote. And right on. Another truth about discipline is that it compounds. Each act of discipline strengthens your ability to choose again tomorrow. Every time you resist quitting, you make quitting harder in the future. Every time you show up when you do not feel like it, you increase the likelihood that you will show up again. Discipline builds momentum, and momentum builds transformation. Small, consistent steps may feel insignificant at first, but over time they accumulate into results so large they cannot be ignored. The compounding effect of discipline is what separates those who dabble from those who dominate. But discipline is not only about action, it is also about restraint. It is the ability to avoid wasting time, to reject distractions, to protect your focus. In a world full of noise, the disciplined person stands apart because they are not swayed by every invitation or temptation. They know that every yes must be measured against their vision, and they are willing to say no even when the temptation is strong. This restraint is a form of power. because every ounce of energy you preserve from distraction can be invested into building yourself. There is also a freedom found in discipline that few people recognize. At first, discipline feels like restriction, like a cage that limits your impulses. But over time, discipline liberates you. It frees you from the chaos of inconsistency, from the bondage of laziness, from the weakness of excuse. It gives you control over your future because you are no longer tossed around by moods or circumstances. You begin to trust yourself because you know that when you commit to something, you will follow through. That self-trust is priceless, and it is only born through discipline. The disciplined life also commands respect. People may not notice every detail of your routine, but they will notice the results. They will see the strength, the excellence, the consistency, and they will know it did not happen by accident. Recognition often feels sudden to outsiders, but it is always slow to the one who has been disciplined. They know it took years of choosing to show up when no one noticed, and they know the recognition would never have come otherwise. This is why discipline is not optional if you want to be remembered. It is the difference between wishing for greatness and actually becoming it. If you want to build yourself until they notice, make discipline your foundation. Do not wait for inspiration. Do not wait for ideal conditions. Do not wait for applause. Begin now. Make small commitments and keep them. Build habits that align with your vision and protect them fiercely. Expect resistance, but push through anyway. Understand that discipline is not about perfection, but about persistence. Even when you stumble, return quickly and continue. In time, your disciplined consistency will carve a path so strong that the world cannot deny it. Greatness is not built in grand moments, but in small, repeated acts of discipline. It is not shouted into existence, but quietly constructed in the daily grind. Discipline will not promise you ease, but it will promise you results. It will not guarantee that you rise quickly, but it will guarantee that you rise steadily. And when the world finally notices what you have become, you will know it was discipline that built the foundation. Others may call it talent, luck, or fate, but you will know the truth. You were simply disciplined enough to become undeniable. Chapter 5. The Power of Patience and Long-Term Thinking. We live in a world obsessed with speed. People want quick results, instant recognition, and rapid transformation. They are lured by the promise of shortcuts and overnight success, constantly comparing their journey to the highlight reels of others. In this climate, patience feels outdated, almost like weakness. But patience is not weakness. Patience is power. It is the discipline of those who understand that growth requires time, that transformation is a long road, and that what is built slowly is built to last. The impatient may gain attention quickly, but they will lose it just as fast. The patient may be ignored for a while, but when they arrive, they endure. Patience is not passive. It is not sitting idly by, waiting for life to deliver blessings. True patience is active perseverance. It is continuing to work, to build, to improve, even when results seem delayed. It is faith in motion. It is the ability to sow seeds without demanding an immediate harvest, to trust the process when the outcome is still invisible. This kind of patience requires strength because it goes against the grain of culture. Everything around you screams for speed, but patience whispers for consistency. The world tells you to rush, but patience tells you to prepare. The greatest danger of impatience is that it distorts perspective. When you demand immediate results, every delay feels like failure, and every obstacle feels unbearable. Impatience magnifies doubt and fuels frustration until quitting feels easier than continuing. But patience allows you to see delay differently. Delay is not denial, it is development. Obstacles are not stop signs. They are opportunities to grow stronger. When you practice patience, you no longer see time as your enemy, but as your partner. You understand that time, when paired with discipline, works for you, not against you. Long-term thinking is the companion of patience. It shifts your focus from temporary gratification to enduring reward. Instead of asking, "What can I gain today?" you ask, "What am I building for tomorrow?" Long-term thinkers are not swayed by quick wins or shallow applause. They measure success not by immediate outcomes but by lasting impact. This mindset is rare because it requires you to sacrifice the comfort of now for the strength of later. It asks you to endure moments of obscurity and even mockery while you lay the groundwork for something greater. But those who think long-term always outlast those who chase instant results. Consider the farmer who plants seeds. He does not dig them up the next day to check for progress. He does not curse the soil because nothing is visible in a week. He waters, he waits, and he trusts the unseen process. His patience is not laziness, it is wisdom. He knows that every seed has its appointed time, and rushing will only ruin the harvest. Your growth is no different. The hidden season you are in may feel endless, but beneath the surface, roots are forming. If you quit now, you will never see the fruit. But if you wait with patience while continuing to work, the harvest will come, and when it does, it will be undeniable. Patience also guards you from comparison. When you think short-term, you are constantly measuring yourself against others. You see someone else rise faster and conclude you are failing. But when you think long-term, you realize that speed is not the measure of greatness, endurance is. Many who rise quickly also fall quickly. Many who achieve early success do not have the roots to sustain it, but those who are patient, who keep building steadily, often create success that not only arrives but remains. Comparison loses its grip when you focus on your own timeline and trust your own process. Another power of patience is how it refines your character. Waiting is uncomfortable. It exposes your doubts, your fears, your insecurities. It forces you to confront your motives and test your commitment. Do you truly believe in your vision, or were you only in love with the idea of quick recognition? Patience strips away pretense. It reveals whether you are truly committed to the process or only interested in the outcome. And when you endure the waiting, you emerge stronger, humbler, and more resilient than before. Patience also prepares you for responsibility. Recognition comes with weight. Attention demands stewardship. If you are not ready to carry the weight of success, it can crush you. Patience ensures that by the time recognition arrives, you are not only talented enough to deserve it, but strong enough to handle it. The time you spend waiting is time you spend preparing, building the habits, the skills, and the resilience needed to sustain what you have been working toward. What looks like delay is often divine protection, keeping you from rising too soon. Long-term thinking teaches you to measure your life not in days or months, but in years and decades. This perspective transforms how you make decisions. You stop chasing what feels good now and start pursuing what will matter later. You begin to invest in things that outlive you: character, legacy, contribution. When you embrace long-term thinking, you no longer panic when results are slow, because you know you are building something bigger than immediate applause. You are building something that will last long after the clapping stops. Impatience whispers lies. It tells you that if recognition has not come yet, it never will. It tells you that your effort is wasted, that your work is pointless, that your vision is a fantasy. But patience tells the truth. It reminds you that every day of consistent work compounds, that every hidden hour of discipline is building strength, and that every sacrifice is laying a foundation. Patience assures you that recognition is not denied, only delayed, and that when it arrives, it will be undeniable because it was built on endurance. If you want to build yourself until they notice, you must become comfortable with time. You must stop demanding that your growth adhere to your schedule. You must learn to see the waiting not as wasted, but as necessary. You must cultivate the faith to keep moving even when results are invisible. The impatient quit too soon, forfeiting what could have been. The patient persist, and in time they reap what they have sown. Patience is not easy. It will test you in ways that speed never could. It will require you to sit in silence while others are applauded. It will force you to keep building while others seem to be celebrated for less. But if you endure, patience will give you what nothing else can: depth, stability, and endurance. When recognition finally comes, it will not slip through your fingers because you will have grown strong enough to hold it. So embrace the power of patience, think long-term, live steadily, and trust the process. Do not despise the waiting. Use it. Let patience mold you into someone who cannot be shaken. Because when you build with patience, you are not just creating success, you are creating permanence. And permanence, not speed, is what makes the world notice and remember. Chapter 6. Mastery in the Dark. Training when no one applauds. The moments that define you are rarely the ones others can see. They are not the standing ovations, the applause, or the headlines. They are the countless hours you spent practicing when no one cared. The mornings you rose before the world stirred. The evenings you pushed through exhaustion while the rest of the world rested. Mastery is not created on the stage. It is created in the shadows, when the only audience is your own conscience, and the only applause is the quiet sense that you showed up again. Most people are addicted to visibility. They want recognition before they have earned mastery. They want the results without enduring the repetition, the applause without facing the silence. But there is no shortcut to mastery. Every skill worth having demands long hours of unseen labor. Every craft worth perfecting requires discipline in solitude. The violinist who commands a concert hall, the athlete who dominates an arena, the writer whose words stir nations, all of them first trained in obscurity, fumbling, failing, repeating, and refining, long before the world ever noticed. The dark is where you face yourself honestly. There is no crowd to impress, no distraction of praise, no comfort of approval. There is only you, your effort, and your willingness to confront your limits. In the silence, you cannot hide behind charm or excuses. The truth of your discipline is revealed. Did you really practice as much as you claim? Did you really push yourself as hard as you imagine? The dark strips away illusions and exposes whether your pursuit is genuine or shallow. It forces you to wrestle with the uncomfortable reality that greatness is purchased not with dreams, but with consistent effort. Mastery is forged in repetition, the unglamorous practice of doing the same thing again and again. Not because it is fun, not because it brings applause, but because it sharpens you. The difference between mediocrity and excellence is often nothing more than the willingness to embrace repetition until it transforms into skill. Many people quit because the process feels monotonous. They want novelty, variety, constant stimulation, but those who are willing to repeat, refine, and endure the monotony eventually cross into mastery. What feels dull today becomes instinct tomorrow. And instinct is what separates the amateur from the master. Training in the dark also builds resilience. Without applause, you must draw motivation from within. Without recognition, you must find satisfaction in progress, however small. This internal resilience becomes a weapon when you finally step into visibility. If you can endure silence, you can endure criticism. If you can train without applause, you will not be addicted to it when it comes. The world cannot control someone who has learned to sustain themselves in obscurity. Their strength is not borrowed from praise, but built from persistence. The challenge of the hidden grind is that it feels invisible. You can practice for months or years without seeing obvious results. You can invest hours of effort without receiving any recognition. This is where many abandon their craft. They confuse invisibility with ineffectiveness. They believe that because no one sees their effort, it must not matter. But mastery does not announce itself overnight. It is accumulated quietly, like water filling a jar drop by drop. One day the jar overflows, but only because of countless drops added in silence. Consider the athlete who practices thousands of hours for a race that may last only seconds. To the crowd, victory looks sudden. To the athlete, it is the visible moment of a process that consumed years. The world sees the performance, but they never see the hidden training. They never see the sacrifices, the repeated drills, the moments of failure that became lessons. Yet without those hidden hours, the visible victory would be impossible. In the same way, your unseen training will always determine the strength of your seen success. Training in the dark also allows you to experiment. You can fail without fear, stumble without shame, adjust without judgment. Obscurity is forgiving, and that forgiveness is a gift. Once recognition arrives, every misstep is magnified, every mistake criticized. But in the dark, you have the freedom to fall and rise again, to refine your skills until they are sharp enough to withstand scrutiny. This is why rushing into recognition before you are ready is dangerous. It robs you of the safe space of obscurity, where failure can be a teacher instead of a scandal. Another truth about mastery is that it does not care about talent alone. Talent may give you an advantage, but without practice, it rots into wasted potential. The world is full of talented people who never built discipline, who never trained in the dark, and as a result their gift was never fully realized. Mastery respects work, not excuses. It respects consistency, not convenience. It bows to those who show up when no one is looking and refuses to be unlocked by those who seek shortcuts. Training without applause is also a test of love. Do you truly love the craft, or do you only love being celebrated for it? When there is no audience, no recognition, and no guarantee of reward, will you still practice? True masters are those who would do the work even if no one ever noticed, because the work itself is fulfilling. Paradoxically, it is this love of the craft, this devotion in obscurity, that eventually creates the kind of excellence that cannot remain hidden. The world notices those who build out of love rather than desperation for attention. Mastery also teaches humility. No matter how much you improve, the process reminds you there is always more to learn. The dark keeps you grounded, stripping away ego and forcing you to focus on growth rather than glory. Every repetition reminds you of your humanity. Every failure reminds you of your need to improve. This humility becomes your strength when recognition comes, because you understand that applause does not mean perfection, and visibility does not mean arrival. You remain a student, and it is that humility that allows you to keep growing long after others have plateaued. If you want to become someone the world cannot ignore, you must be willing to labor in silence. You must accept the long nights, the unseen sacrifices, the countless repetitions. You must trust that even if no one sees now, the results will one day speak louder than any applause ever could. Do not despise the dark. Use it, train in it, let it shape you into someone who no longer needs to beg for recognition because your mastery demands it. The stage is not where you build strength, it is where you reveal it. And the strength you reveal will only ever be as great as the hours you invested when no one was watching. Progress should postpone, period. So embrace the silence and let the dark become your ally. It is in those hidden hours that you carve out a greatness the world cannot ignore. When the lights eventually shine, you will not fear them, because you will know that you have already built yourself in the shadows. And when the applause finally comes, it will not surprise you, because you will understand it was never the applause that made you. It was the mastery you forged when no one was clapping. Chapter 7. Breaking Limits. Resilience in the face of failure. Failure is inevitable on the journey of building yourself. No matter how disciplined you are, no matter how clear your vision, no matter how deeply you commit to growth, you will stumble. You will fall short of goals, make mistakes, and encounter obstacles that seem immovable. Too often, people interpret failure as the end. They take it as proof that they are not enough, or that their dream is not meant to be. But failure is never final unless you allow it to be. It is not the conclusion of your story, but the classroom of your transformation. What separates those who are noticed from those who are forgotten is not the absence of failure, but the presence of resilience. Resilience is the ability to rise again after the fall, to continue moving forward even when the weight of defeat threatens to hold you down. It is not about pretending the pain is not real. Failure hurts, rejection wounds, mistakes sting. Resilience does not deny the pain, but refuses to be defined by it. It looks failure in the eye and says, "You may have slowed me, but you will not stop me." Every person who has ever built something worth noticing has walked through seasons of failure, but instead of quitting, they used those seasons as fuel. The truth about failure is that it is often the best teacher. Success can be deceptive, convincing you that you have arrived, blinding you to weaknesses still unaddressed. Failure exposes what success hides. It shows you the cracks in your foundation, the flaws in your strategy, the areas where growth is still required. It humbles you, refines you, and strengthens you if you are willing to learn. Without failure, you risk becoming arrogant or complacent. With failure, you are given an opportunity to rebuild stronger. Resilience requires perspective. You must learn to see failure not as evidence of incapacity, but as proof that you are in the arena, that you are attempting something difficult enough to challenge you. Many people never fail because they never try. They stay safe in comfort zones, avoiding risk, and in doing so they avoid growth. Those who dare to fail are the ones who dare to live fully. Resilience begins by shifting your relationship with failure. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin to ask, "What can I learn from this? How can this shape me into someone stronger?" Failure also tests commitment. When the excitement of vision collides with the reality of setbacks, resilience is what keeps you anchored. Without resilience, failure becomes a signal to abandon ship. With resilience, failure becomes a signal to adjust your sails. The resilient understand that setbacks are not the same as defeat. They may pause, reflect, and realign, but they never stop moving. This determination to continue even when progress is painful and slow is what eventually makes them impossible to ignore. Every failure you endure also expands your capacity for the future. The more you fail and rise again, the stronger you become. The things that once would have crushed you lose their power. The criticisms that once silenced you become background noise. The obstacles that once seemed unbearable become manageable. Each failure overcome is like adding weight to your foundation, making you more stable, more grounded, more capable of carrying the recognition and responsibility that will eventually come. Without resilience forged in failure, recognition would collapse you. With it, recognition cannot shake you. Resilience also requires patience with yourself. It is tempting to demand perfection, to expect that you should get everything right the first time. But perfection is not possible, and the pursuit of it will only lead to despair. Growth is messy. Progress is uneven. Some days you will advance quickly, other days you will crawl. Resilience accepts this reality without surrendering to it. It allows you to stumble without quitting, to rest without abandoning, to acknowledge your humanity without abandoning your pursuit of excellence. It is important to understand that resilience does not mean you will never feel discouraged. There will be days when doubt shouts louder than hope, when fear whispers that you are wasting your time. Resilience does not silence those voices immediately. Instead, it chooses to move forward in spite of them. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is persistence in the face of fear. Resilience is not the absence of discouragement. It is action in the presence of discouragement. It is the stubborn refusal to surrender even when your emotions tell you to stop. Those who build resilience also develop adaptability. Failure often requires you to change strategies, to innovate, to approach the problem differently. Resilience is not rigid stubbornness. It is flexible persistence. It is the ability to keep your eyes fixed on the vision while being willing to change the path that gets you there. This adaptability is crucial because the journey will never unfold exactly as you plan. Resilience ensures that even when plans collapse, your progress does not. You bend but do not break, and in bending you discover new strengths and new paths forward. One of the greatest gifts of resilience is credibility. People respect those who endure. They notice those who continue after defeat. When they see that you cannot be easily broken, they take your presence more seriously. Recognition comes not only to the talented but to the resilient. Talent may draw attention for a moment, but resilience earns respect over time. When you are resilient, the world cannot dismiss you, because your persistence makes you undeniable. Resilience is also the foundation of hope. Each time you overcome failure, you prove to yourself that you can. Each recovery builds evidence that you are stronger than you thought. Over time, this evidence becomes confidence, a quiet assurance that no matter what comes, you will not be stopped. This confidence is not arrogance. It is not a belief that you will never fall again. It is a belief that no matter how many times you fall, you will rise. That belief is the essence of resilience, and it transforms the way you face life. If you want to build yourself until they notice, you must stop fearing failure and start using it. You must decide that every setback is an opportunity, every disappointment a lesson, every mistake a stepping stone. You must refuse to let failure define you and instead let it refine you. You must cultivate resilience, the stubborn strength that insists on continuing even when the world expects you to quit. Because the truth is, those who quit will never be remembered. Only those who rise again and again until they become undeniable will stand in the light of recognition. So embrace failure as part of the process and embrace resilience as your response. Do not despise the falls, for they are teaching you how to stand taller. Do not curse the setbacks, for they are shaping you into someone stronger. Let resilience become your identity so that when the world looks at you, they see not just talent or ambition, but an unbreakable spirit. And when recognition finally comes, it will not be because you never failed. It will be because you never stayed down. Chapter 8. Confidence without applause. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many believe it comes from recognition, from the approval of others, from the applause of the crowd. They think confidence is built when people validate their talent, when their work is celebrated, when their worth is affirmed by external voices. But real confidence is not dependent on applause. Real confidence is rooted in identity, discipline, and resilience. It is the quiet strength that remains steady whether the world cheers or stays silent. It is the ability to believe in yourself even when no one else does. Applause is fleeting. It comes and goes with trends, with moods, with shifting circumstances. If your confidence depends on applause, you will live on a fragile foundation. You will rise when people celebrate you, and you will collapse when they criticize you or ignore you. This instability will keep you from true growth because you will always be performing for approval instead of pursuing excellence. Confidence without applause liberates you. It frees you from the tyranny of opinion. It allows you to keep building, keep pushing, keep showing up, whether or not anyone notices. The most powerful individuals are not those who are loudest in the spotlight, but those who can stand tall in silence. Their confidence is not borrowed from clapping hands, but forged in the dark places of persistence. They know who they are, and because of that they do not crumble when the crowd is absent. This kind of confidence is rare, because it requires deep work. It requires you to anchor your worth in something greater than recognition. It asks you to build so much trust in yourself that applause becomes a bonus, not a necessity. Confidence without applause begins with honesty. You must learn to evaluate yourself truthfully without leaning on external voices. This means acknowledging your strengths without arrogance and confronting your weaknesses without despair. It means looking at your progress with clear eyes, celebrating growth while still demanding improvement. When you can measure yourself accurately, you stop depending on others to define your value. You stop being inflated by compliments or deflated by criticism. You begin to trust your own assessment, and in that trust, confidence grows. Another element of this confidence is integrity. When your actions align with your values, when your habits align with your vision, you begin to trust yourself. Confidence is not simply belief in what you can do, but belief in who you are becoming. When you consistently follow through on your commitments, even the small ones, You build credibility with yourself. That credibility is the foundation of confidence. The person who cannot trust themselves cannot stand tall without applause. The person who knows they keep their word, even in silence, carries a strength that no critic can shake. Confidence without applause also requires resilience against rejection. There will be times when people dismiss your work, ignore your efforts, or even mock your dreams. If you rely on their approval, these moments will break you. But if your confidence is self-sustained, rejection becomes fuel rather than fire. You remind yourself that their opinion does not define your worth, that their blindness does not diminish your progress. You keep moving not because they see you, but because you see yourself. In time, the very people who doubted you may be forced to acknowledge what you have become. But by then, you will no longer be chasing their applause. You will have already outgrown the need for it. One of the dangers of external validation is that it creates dependency. The more you rely on applause, the more you crave it, until eventually your motivation is no longer growth but performance. You start to bend yourself into whatever shape garners approval, losing authenticity in the process. Confidence without applause protects you from this trap. It allows you to remain authentic, to stay aligned with your vision even when it is unpopular. It gives you the courage to pursue paths that others may not understand, because you are not building for their recognition, you are building from conviction. True confidence is quiet. It does not need to boast. It does not need to constantly prove itself. It does not collapse when questioned. It is visible in your posture, in your decisions, in your persistence. People notice it not because you announce it, but because it radiates from the way you carry yourself. Confidence without applause is unshakable precisely because it is not for show. It does not depend on being seen to exist. It is present in the hidden hours, the unseen sacrifices, the daily choices that no one else witnesses. This kind of confidence also prepares you for recognition when it does come. If you have only known applause-driven confidence, the weight of visibility can crush you. Every critic feels like a dagger. Every moment of silence feels like failure. But if you have learned to sustain confidence without applause, recognition becomes easier to navigate. You are not surprised by criticism, nor are you intoxicated by praise. You remain balanced, steady, and focused because your foundation has already been built. Recognition becomes an addition, not a necessity. Confidence without applause is also contagious. People are drawn to those who believe in themselves without needing validation. It inspires trust because it signals authenticity and stability. When you carry yourself with quiet assurance, others begin to believe in you as well. Ironically, the very confidence that does not depend on applause often attracts it. The world respects those who do not beg for attention but command it naturally by the strength of their presence. If you want to build yourself until they notice, you must cultivate this kind of confidence. You must practice believing in yourself when no one is affirming you. You must learn to stand tall even when ignored. You must build habits of integrity that allow you to trust yourself deeply. And you must develop the resilience to move forward even in the face of rejection. Because the truth is, applause may come and go, but your confidence must remain. If it is anchored in who you are, no silence or criticism can erase it. So stop waiting for others to clap before you believe in yourself. Stop measuring your worth by the volume of approval. Learn to stand in silence, to trust your work, to trust your growth, to trust your process. Let your confidence be rooted so deeply that applause becomes unnecessary. When you do this, you will find that the recognition you once chased begins to chase you. The world will notice, not because you ask them to, but because confidence that does not need applause always commands attention. Chapter 9. Becoming Valuable, Excellence that Cannot Be Ignored. At some point in your journey, the question shifts from whether you are working hard to whether you are creating value. The world does not notice effort alone. It notices results. People are not drawn to busyness, they are drawn to excellence. You can spend years grinding, but if your work never rises above mediocrity, recognition will remain distant. What compels the world to pay attention is not simply persistence, but the undeniable weight of value that excellence creates. When you commit to becoming valuable, you no longer need to beg for recognition. Your results speak on your behalf, and your presence becomes difficult to overlook. Excellence is not perfection. Perfection is unattainable and often paralyzing, keeping people from ever finishing what they start. Excellence, on the other hand, is about bringing the best of yourself to everything you do, about refusing to settle for mediocrity, about taking ordinary opportunities and turning them into something remarkable through focus and discipline. Excellence is a choice, repeated daily until it becomes a habit, until it weaves itself into the fabric of your character. Once it becomes part of who you are, it shapes everything you touch. The truth is that value commands attention. When you offer something truly excellent, people cannot help but notice. A singer who masters her craft will eventually be heard, even if she begins in small clubs. An entrepreneur who consistently delivers exceptional service will eventually draw customers, even if the market is crowded. A leader who solves problems with wisdom and consistency will eventually be followed, even if he begins with no influence. Excellence cuts through noise because in a world saturated with mediocrity, quality stands out. Becoming valuable means going beyond the minimum. It means refusing to do just enough to get by. It means adding depth where others remain shallow, adding thought where others are careless, adding integrity where others cut corners. Excellence requires more time, more energy, and more discipline than mediocrity, which is why so few embrace it. But it is also why those who do embrace it rise above the rest. The gap between good and great is where the world begins to notice. Another truth about value is that it multiplies when paired with consistency. One act of excellence may impress, but sustained excellence builds reputation. When people know they can rely on your work, when they know your results are not occasional but dependable, you become valuable in ways that no shortcut can replicate. Reputation is not built in a day, but over many days of showing up with excellence. It is what makes people trust you, seek you, and speak about you. Recognition becomes inevitable when your reputation for excellence precedes you. Excellence is not confined to talent, it extends to character. If you are brilliant but unreliable, your value is diminished. If you are gifted but lack integrity, your influence will collapse. True value is not just about what you produce, but about who you are. People are drawn not only to results, but to trustworthiness, to consistency, to authenticity. Excellence in skill attracts attention, but excellence in character sustains it. Without character, recognition will come and go. With character, recognition will grow and endure. Becoming valuable also requires humility. It is tempting to believe that once you achieve a certain level of skill, you have arrived. But excellence is never final. It demands continuous improvement, a refusal to stagnate. The moment you believe you have mastered everything, you begin to decline. Those who remain valuable are those who remain teachable. They keep refining their craft, learning new strategies, adapting to changing environments. Their value increases because they refuse to rely on yesterday's growth. Excellence is alive, and it must be fed daily. The pursuit of value also protects you from distraction. Many people chase recognition directly, trying to be noticed without first building something worth noticing. This leads to shortcuts, gimmicks, and hollow performances. But when you shift your focus to becoming valuable, you no longer chase recognition, you attract it naturally. You are too busy improving, refining, and creating quality to worry about who is watching. Ironically, it is this very focus on value that makes people begin to watch. They see the depth of your work, the weight of your contribution, and they cannot ignore it. Excellence demands sacrifice. It asks for extra hours of practice, extra attention to detail, extra commitment when fatigue tempts you to stop. It requires you to hold yourself to higher standards than those around you. Others may accept average, but you must not. Others may be satisfied with shortcuts, but you must take the long road. This sacrifice is costly, but the reward is priceless. Excellence pays dividends that mediocrity never will. It earns trust, it earns influence, and eventually it earns recognition. Value is not measured only by what you gain, but by what you give. The most valuable people are those who contribute beyond themselves, who create solutions, who lift others, who make environments better simply by being in them. If your pursuit of excellence is purely self-centered, its impact will be limited. But when your excellence creates value for others, it becomes impossible to ignore. The world notices those who make life better, who solve problems, who contribute meaningfully. If you want to become unforgettable, focus not only on excelling for yourself, but on creating value for others. The process of becoming valuable is slow. You cannot fake it and you cannot rush it. It requires patience, discipline, and relentless commitment to improvement. At first, it may feel as though no one sees the effort, but value always reveals itself over time. Excellence leaves evidence, and eventually that evidence becomes too strong for the world to dismiss. Recognition comes not as a reward you demand, but as a reflection of the value you have created. If you are serious about building yourself until they notice, stop worrying about attention and start worrying about value. Focus on making your work excellent, your habits consistent, your character trustworthy, and your contribution meaningful. Let your results become so strong that they speak louder than your words. Let your presence carry such weight that people feel it even before they see it. Recognition is fickle, but value is undeniable, and when you become truly valuable, the world has no choice but to notice. Chapter 10. Building in silence, emerging in power. There is a profound strength in the ability to build quietly. In a culture obsessed with broadcasting every move, with showcasing progress before it has matured, the discipline to work in silence has become rare. People want to display the beginnings of their efforts, as if the appearance of growth were the same as growth itself. They mistake visibility for victory and attention for achievement. Yet true power comes not from announcing your progress prematurely, but from preparing until your progress cannot be denied. To build in silence is to resist the temptation of shallow applause so that you can emerge in power when the time is right. Silence is a sanctuary. It shields you from unnecessary judgment, from premature expectations, from the constant noise of comparison. In silence, you are free to make mistakes without scrutiny, free to learn without pressure, free to refine your craft without distraction. When you keep your process private, you give yourself space to grow authentically, without bending to what others think you should be. Too many lose their way by revealing their journey too early, exposing it to voices that are quick to criticize but slow to understand. Building in silence protects you from that vulnerability until you are strong enough to withstand it. There is also an energy that leaks when you talk too much about what you are building. Each time you announce your plans prematurely, you give away a piece of the momentum that could have been invested in execution. Speaking of goals too often can create the illusion of accomplishment, tricking you into believing you have achieved something simply because you declared it. Silence preserves your energy for the work itself. It channels ambition into action rather than words, ensuring that when the time comes, your results will do the talking. Building in silence requires humility. It means accepting that recognition may not come immediately, that progress may go unnoticed, that the applause you crave may be delayed. It means finding satisfaction not in validation but in growth itself. Humility keeps you grounded, reminding you that the process is not about impressing others, but about transforming yourself. The humble builder is content to remain hidden until their work has matured enough to speak with undeniable clarity. And when it does, the impact is far greater than if it had been forced into the spotlight too soon. The power of silence is that it makes your emergence surprising. While others have been broadcasting every step, You have been quietly building depth. While others have been chasing attention, you have been sharpening your skills. When you finally emerge, the difference is stark. People wonder where you came from, how you developed such strength seemingly overnight. But there was no overnight. There were years of hidden work, years of unnoticed persistence, years of silent construction. Surprise is not because you grew quickly, but because you grew quietly. Building in silence also builds resilience. When you are not fueled by applause, you learn to fuel yourself. When you are not encouraged by recognition, you learn to encourage yourself. This inner resilience becomes an unshakable foundation. The one who can build without applause is the one who cannot be destroyed by its absence. They are not addicted to the crowd, and therefore they are not controlled by it. Their strength is internal, and because of that, it endures long after external voices fade. To emerge in power does not mean to arrive with arrogance. It means to arrive with evidence. It means that your results are so undeniable that no one can dismiss them. It means that your transformation speaks louder than your explanations, that your excellence silences doubt. Emerging in power is not about proving others wrong, but about proving yourself right. It is about finally unveiling the strength that was forged in silence, about stepping into visibility not because you demanded attention, but because your growth made attention inevitable. Emerging in power also carries responsibility. When you finally step into recognition, the weight of expectation will come with it. If you have built in silence, you will be ready for that weight. Your habits will be strong, your character tested, your resilience proven. The power of building quietly is that it prepares you for visibility without corrupting you. Those who seek recognition too soon often collapse under its demands. Those who wait, who build in silence, who let time and effort do their work, emerge with the strength to sustain what they have gained. Silence is also a form of strategy. In warfare, surprise is often the most powerful weapon. The enemy who announces every move gives away their advantage. In life, the same principle applies. When you reveal too much, too soon, you make yourself vulnerable to doubt, criticism, and even sabotage. But when you move quietly, you preserve the element of surprise. By the time others see what you are building, it is already too strong to be stopped. Silence allows you to protect your progress until it is unshakable. The temptation to broadcast progress is strong because humans long for validation. We want others to know we are trying, to affirm our effort, to notice our journey. But the danger of premature exposure is that it shifts your focus. Instead of building for mastery, you begin building for approval. Instead of chasing excellence, you begin chasing attention. Slowly, without realizing it, you exchange substance for image, depth for appearance. Silence protects you from this trap by keeping your focus where it belongs, on the work itself. If you want to emerge in power, you must first accept obscurity. You must learn to value the quiet grind, to find pride in unseen progress, to celebrate victories that no one else applauds. You must remind yourself that you are not building for immediate recognition, but for inevitable recognition. The silence you endure today is the strength you reveal tomorrow. The patience you practice now is the power you will display later. What feels hidden now will one day become visible, and when it does, it will carry a weight that cannot be ignored. So, build in silence. Protect your vision from premature exposure. Guard your energy from wasted words. Invest yourself fully in the work, in the growth, in the discipline that no one sees. Let the silence shape you, strengthen you, and prepare you. And when the time is right, when your foundation is strong and your excellence undeniable, emerge. Do not whisper, do not announce. Simply arrive with results so powerful that they need no explanation. That is how you build yourself until they notice. Not with noise, not with premature applause, but with the quiet strength of a life built in silence and revealed in undeniable power. Chapter 11. The moment of recognition. When they finally notice. There comes a day when all the hidden work begins to reveal itself. The years of obscurity, the discipline that no one applauded, the sacrifices no one witnessed, the resilience that carried you through failures, all of it begins to show in ways that others can no longer ignore. Recognition often feels sudden to the outside world, but to the one who has endured the process, it is anything but sudden. It is the natural consequence of preparation meeting opportunity, the inevitable unveiling of seeds that were faithfully planted long before anyone thought to look. The moment of recognition is rarely dramatic at first. It may not come with fireworks or thunderous applause. Often it begins subtly. Someone begins to notice the consistency of your work. Someone else sees the quality of your contribution. A door opens that once remained firmly shut. Opportunities that once bypassed you begin to circle back in your direction. The world, which seemed indifferent for so long, begins to lean closer. Recognition is not always a roar. Sometimes it is a whisper that grows steadily louder until it fills the room. Yet recognition, as rewarding as it feels, must be approached with caution. It is easy to believe that the applause means you have arrived, that the notice of others validates your worth. But recognition is not the destination, it is a signal. It signals that your preparation is beginning to bear fruit, that your growth is visible, that your excellence is undeniable. But if you treat it as the finish line, you will stop building. And when you stop building, your recognition will fade. The world notices because of your consistency, and it will only continue to notice if you remain consistent. Recognition also comes with responsibility. The attention you once longed for can quickly become a weight you were not expecting. People will form expectations of you. Some will admire you, others will criticize you, and many will judge you without understanding the depth of your journey. If you are not prepared, recognition can overwhelm you. It can tempt you to abandon the very discipline that brought you here in the first place. That is why the hidden season was so important. If you built faithfully in silence, you will now have the strength to withstand the noise of recognition. The moment of recognition also reveals people around you. Some will celebrate sincerely, proud of the growth they watched you endure. Others will envy, struggling to accept that you have risen while they remain still. Some will attempt to claim credit for your progress, while others will question whether you truly deserve it. Recognition does not only expose you, it exposes those connected to you. This can be painful, but it is also clarifying. You begin to see who is truly for you and who is only for what they thought you could offer. This clarity, while uncomfortable, becomes part of your growth. It is important to remind yourself in this moment that recognition is not a gift handed to you, but the evidence of what you have built. You earned it not by asking for it, but by becoming someone worthy of it. Recognition is not the world doing you a favor. It is the world finally catching up to the reality you have already been living. This mindset will protect you from arrogance. You do not need to flaunt recognition because you know it is only the reflection of your effort. You can receive it with humility, grateful for the visibility, but not enslaved by it. For some, recognition feels validating, a confirmation that the pain and persistence were not wasted, and in many ways it is, but you must not let it become your sole source of validation. If your confidence was built without applause, recognition will simply be a sweet addition. If your confidence depends on recognition, you will become addicted to it, constantly chasing the next approval, the next applause. Recognition is not meant to replace your foundation, but to reveal it. If your foundation is strong, recognition will enhance it. If your foundation is weak, recognition will expose it. The moment you are noticed is also the moment you must guard your authenticity most fiercely. The temptation will be to shape yourself into what the crowd desires, to adjust your message, your craft, or your identity to maintain applause. But the very reason you are noticed is because of the authenticity you built in silence. If you abandon that now, you will lose not only yourself but also the lasting impact of your recognition. Stay true to who you are, even as the volume of voices around you grows louder. Let recognition serve your authenticity, not replace it. Recognition, when received rightly, is a reminder of purpose. It is not a signal to slow down, but to continue with even greater conviction. It is a chance to expand your reach, to increase your impact, to use the visibility you have gained as a platform for contribution rather than vanity. The question is no longer whether they notice, but what you will do with their notice. Will you allow recognition to inflate you or to empower you? Will you treat it as a trophy to admire or as a tool to build with? The choice will define whether your recognition becomes temporary or lasting. One of the most liberating truths about recognition is that by the time it arrives, you no longer need it the way you once thought you did. You wanted it desperately in the beginning, longing for affirmation that your effort mattered, but in the silence, you built discipline, resilience, confidence, and value. By the time recognition comes, you already know who you are. You already know what you can do. The applause feels good, but it is not essential. The notice feels affirming, but it does not define you. You realize that the true reward was never the recognition, but the person you became in the process. So when the moment of recognition arrives, embrace it with gratitude but not dependence. Receive it with humility but not arrogance. Use it as fuel to continue, not as an excuse to stop. Remember that it is not the end of your journey, but simply another chapter. Let recognition remind you that building in silence was not wasted, that patience was not in vain, that resilience was not pointless. Let it strengthen your resolve to keep building, to keep growing, to keep becoming. Before we finish up today, recognition is not the finish line. It is the beginning of greater responsibility, greater impact, and greater opportunity to live out the fullness of who you have become. Chapter 12. Beyond recognition, impact over applause. Recognition is powerful, but it is not the ultimate goal. Applause can affirm you, attention can encourage you, and visibility can open doors, but if all you chase is recognition, your growth will eventually stall. Recognition is a milestone, not a destination. What truly matters is not simply being noticed, but using that visibility to create impact. Applause fades quickly. The same crowd that cheers today will move on tomorrow. But impact endures. It lingers in the lives you touch, the problems you solve, the legacy you leave behind. To build yourself until they notice is only the beginning. To build yourself until you create lasting impact is the true fulfillment of the journey. Impact begins with contribution. Recognition asks, "Who sees me?" But impact asks, "Whose life is better because of me?" The shift from recognition to impact transforms your perspective. It moves you from self-centered ambition to purpose-driven living. Recognition gratifies the ego, but impact gratifies the soul. When you pursue impact, you no longer measure success by how loudly people applaud, but by how deeply people are changed. This is what separates those who are remembered for a moment from those who are remembered for a lifetime. Applause is temporary because it depends on the moods of others. Impact is lasting because it depends on the value you create. You cannot control applause, but you can control your contribution. You cannot force people to notice you, but you can choose to keep giving your best, to keep serving, to keep solving problems that matter. Over time, your contribution builds a legacy that outlives applause. The crowd may forget the moment they cheered, but the person whose life you touched will carry that change forever. Moving beyond recognition also requires humility. It is tempting to believe that visibility itself is the achievement, that once people know your name or praise your work, the journey is complete. But recognition is not an end, it is a responsibility. Visibility magnifies your influence, and with influence comes accountability. The question becomes not, how do I stay in the spotlight, but how do I steward this spotlight well? If recognition makes you self-indulgent, it will ultimately destroy you. If recognition makes you more committed to serving others, it will expand your impact. Impact also requires consistency long after recognition has arrived. Many lose momentum once they are noticed. They relax, assuming their past effort is enough to sustain their reputation. But the truth is, recognition creates expectation. People will look to you for guidance, for excellence, for consistency. If you fail to deliver, recognition can quickly turn to disappointment. Impact is sustained only when you continue to build, to grow, to give. The same discipline that carried you through obscurity must continue to carry you through visibility. Recognition may open the door, but impact is what keeps it open. Another truth about impact is that it is rarely as glamorous as recognition. Applause feels immediate, thrilling, and energizing. Impact is often quiet, slow, and unseen. It looks like conversations no one hears, acts of service no one praises, sacrifices no one applauds. But it is in these quiet, uncelebrated actions that lives are truly changed. Impact does not always come with a stage. Sometimes it comes in silence, in the same hidden spaces where your growth began. The applause may fade, but the impact you leave in hidden places remains. To pursue impact, you must think long-term. Recognition can be fleeting, tied to trends, fads, or temporary achievements. But impact is built over years of consistent value. It requires you to think not just about today, but about tomorrow. Not just about yourself, but about those who will come after you. What are you building that will outlive you? What will remain when the applause has stopped and the spotlight has moved? These questions push you beyond the shallow chase of recognition into the deeper pursuit of legacy. Impact also demands courage. When you move beyond recognition, you will sometimes make choices that are unpopular. You will say and do things that may not draw applause, but will create lasting change. You may challenge systems, confront injustice, or stand for values that others dismiss. Applause often rewards conformity, but impact requires conviction. The courage to pursue impact over applause ensures that your work has substance, even if it costs you popularity. Those who chase applause may be noticed for a season, but those who pursue impact are remembered for generations. The irony is that when you shift your focus from recognition to impact, recognition often grows stronger. People are drawn to those who are genuinely committed to something greater than themselves. They trust those who value contribution over validation. Recognition that comes from impact is deeper and more enduring because it is rooted in authenticity. It is not about performance, but about purpose. And because purpose resonates more powerfully than ego, the recognition that follows impact often lasts longer and reaches further. But even if recognition fades, impact remains enough. You will not always be celebrated, you will not always be praised, the spotlight will shift to someone else. But if you have pursued impact, you will not be forgotten. The seeds you planted in people's lives, the problems you solved, the legacy you built, these will continue to bear fruit long after applause has died. True fulfillment does not come from being noticed, but from knowing you made a difference. That is the deeper reward of building yourself with discipline, patience, resilience, and authenticity. If you want to build yourself until they notice, do not stop at recognition. Recognition is a beginning, not an end. Move beyond it. Aim for impact. Focus on creating value so real, so lasting, that applause becomes irrelevant. Let your measure of success be the lives you touch, the change you create, the legacy you leave. Build so deeply that even when the world moves on, your influence remains. That is how you move from being noticed to being remembered, from applause to legacy, from recognition to true greatness. Chapter 13. The Legacy Mindset. Building beyond yourself. There comes a point in the journey when the pursuit of recognition gives way to a higher calling. You realize that the applause you once longed for cannot satisfy you, that visibility alone is not enough, and that even impact in the present, while powerful, is incomplete if it ends with you. The true measure of a life well built is not how loudly people applaud while you are alive, but how deeply your influence continues after you are gone. This is the essence of legacy, the decision to build not just for yourself, not just for your generation, but for those who will come long after you. Legacy requires vision that stretches beyond personal achievement. It asks you to consider not only what you will accomplish, but what you will leave behind. Many build for comfort, recognition, or even temporary influence, but few build with the mindset of continuity. Legacy builders understand that their life is a seed, and that seed must grow into something larger than their own lifetime. They live with the awareness that their words, actions, and choices ripple forward into the lives of people they may never meet. Legacy is the art of planting trees under whose shade you may never sit. The mindset of legacy changes how you approach success. If success is only about you, it ends when you do. If success is about others, it multiplies. Legacy shifts your perspective from accumulation to contribution. It moves you from asking, "How can I be remembered?" to "What can I give that will outlast me?" This is not about monuments or fame, for monuments crumble and fame fades. Legacy is about values passed on, wisdom shared, lives influenced, and foundations laid for others to build upon. It is quieter than recognition, but infinitely stronger. Legacy also demands responsibility. When you adopt the legacy mindset, you recognize that your life is no longer just your own. The way you live, the standards you set, the choices you make all become examples for others. Whether you realize it or not, you are influencing someone, shaping someone, inspiring or discouraging someone. Legacy means choosing to live intentionally, to leave behind not confusion but clarity, not weakness but strength, not bitterness but hope. You carry the awareness that your life is part of a story larger than yourself, and that story will continue long after your part is finished. Building a legacy requires patience, because legacy is not built overnight. It cannot be manufactured through a single act or a brief season of effort. It is woven through years of consistency, through patterns of integrity, through countless decisions that, when added together, tell a story of character. People may forget isolated achievements, but they remember the pattern of your life. They may forget what you said, but they will remember how you lived. Legacy is not the result of one extraordinary moment, but of many ordinary moments lived with extraordinary faithfulness. One of the most important truths about legacy is that it is not optional. Everyone leaves one. The question is not whether you will leave a legacy, but what kind of legacy you will leave. Some leave legacies of regret, of broken promises, of wasted potential. Others leave legacies of strength, resilience, and inspiration. You are shaping your legacy right now in the way you live each day. The choices you make today are writing the story others will tell tomorrow. This awareness should stir urgency. Not the urgency of rushing, but the urgency of intentionality. Legacy is also about multiplication. True legacy is not simply leaving behind memories, but equipping others to continue the work. It is about mentorship, guidance, and investment in people who will carry forward what you began. If what you build ends with you, it is not legacy, it is merely accomplishment. Legacy ensures continuity. It means that your values, your lessons, your contributions are passed on in ways that empower others to grow even stronger. This is how one life becomes many, how one story becomes a movement, how one voice echoes across generations. Legacy often requires sacrifice. You may not see the full fruit of your investment in your lifetime. You may pour into people who will rise long after you are gone. You may build foundations that others will enjoy more than you. This requires humility and selflessness. Legacy builders accept that their role may not always be celebrated, but that their work is essential. They take satisfaction in knowing that what they planted will grow, even if their name is forgotten. They measure success not by applause, but by continuity. There is also a profound peace in the legacy mindset. When you live only for recognition, you are anxious about being forgotten. When you live for legacy, you are content because you know your influence will outlast memory. You stop worrying about whether people will remember your name and start focusing on whether they will live differently because of your life. That peace frees you from the insecurity of chasing relevance and anchors you in the deeper joy of making a difference that will endure. The legacy mindset also transforms how you view failure. In the earlier chapters of life, failure feels personal, like an indictment of your worth. But when you live for legacy, failure becomes part of a larger process. You understand that setbacks may slow you, but they cannot erase the story you are building. Your perseverance through failure becomes part of the legacy you pass on. Others will not remember that you never failed. They will remember that you never quit. Your resilience becomes a lesson that outlives you, teaching those who follow that falling is not the end, but part of the path. To embrace the legacy mindset, you must shift your daily focus. Ask yourself, what am I building today that will last tomorrow? Let this question guide your habits, your decisions, your relationships. Small acts of integrity, small investments of kindness, small commitments to excellence, these may feel insignificant in the moment, but they accumulate into a life that leaves deep marks. Legacy is not about grandeur, but about faithfulness. It is not about noise, but about depth. If you want to build yourself until they notice, you must go further. And build yourself until your impact continues even when they no longer notice. Recognition is temporary, but legacy is eternal. Strive not just for applause, but for influence that lasts. Live not just to be celebrated, but to be remembered for what you gave, what you stood for, and what you left behind. Because in the end, the measure of greatness is not simply how many people noticed you, but how many people were changed because you lived. Chapter 14. Becoming unforgettable. Living as proof of transformation. To be noticed is one thing. To be remembered is another. The world is full of people who were once recognized, who enjoyed moments of attention, who stood briefly in the spotlight only to fade into obscurity when the applause stopped. They were noticed, but they were not unforgettable. Becoming unforgettable requires more than a flash of brilliance or a season of success. It requires depth, authenticity, resilience, and consistency. It requires a life that not only draws attention but leaves an impression so deep that people carry it with them long after you are gone. Living as proof of transformation means becoming the embodiment of the journey you have walked. It means that when people look at you, they do not just see talent or achievement. They see a story. They see the long nights of building in silence, the resilience forged in failure, the discipline that carried you when motivation died, the patience that endured delay, the mastery refined in the dark. You become living evidence that growth is possible, that change is real, that a person can build themselves into someone they were not before. To live as proof of transformation is to become a testimony that inspires others to begin their own. Unforgettable people are not perfect. In fact, it is often their imperfections that make them relatable. What makes them unforgettable is not that they never failed, but that they never surrendered. Their scars become symbols of survival. Their mistakes become lessons shared freely. Their perseverance becomes inspiration. Perfection may impress for a moment, but authenticity inspires for a lifetime. When you embrace your full story, the victories and the defeats, you give others permission to believe that transformation is possible for them too. Consistency is one of the pillars of being unforgettable. Anyone can shine for a moment, but those who are remembered are those who endure. They continue to grow, continue to contribute, continue to live with integrity long after the initial applause has faded. Their greatness is not confined to a single season, but stretches across years, leaving a trail of evidence too strong to dismiss. Consistency turns moments into legacies because over time, it is not the extraordinary peaks that define you, but the steady rhythm of faithfulness. Becoming unforgettable also requires courage. You cannot be unforgettable if you spend your life blending in, conforming to expectations, or silencing your convictions to keep the peace. The people who leave lasting marks are those who stand for something, who are willing to risk criticism to live authentically. Courage does not mean recklessness, but it does mean choosing conviction over comfort, integrity over popularity, and purpose over applause. People may not always agree with you, but they will remember that you stood firm. Another quality of unforgettable lives is generosity. People rarely remember those who took from them, but they never forget those who gave. Generosity is not just about money, but about presence, encouragement, wisdom, and kindness. When you invest in others, when you help them grow, when you leave them better than you found them, you plant seeds that endure in their memory. Generosity transforms recognition into reverence. It shifts you from being admired for what you achieved to being remembered for what you gave. Unforgettable lives are also marked by impact that extends beyond the individual. They are not only about personal success, but about creating spaces for others to succeed. They mentor, they teach, they lead, they inspire movements larger than themselves. They live in such a way that their presence multiplies into the lives of countless others. When you become someone who not only rises but lifts, you etch your story into the stories of those you have helped, and that influence cannot be erased. To live as proof of transformation, you must also embrace growth until the very end. Many people stop once they achieve recognition, satisfied with having been noticed, but the unforgettable continue to evolve. They refuse to plateau. They embrace new challenges, seek new wisdom, expand their contribution. Their life is a constant testimony that transformation is not a one-time event, but a lifelong process. This ongoing growth keeps them vibrant, relevant, and inspiring across seasons and generations. Becoming unforgettable is not about fame. Fame is shallow and fickle, often detached from substance. You can be famous for things that add no value to the world, and fame can vanish overnight. To be unforgettable is different. It is to live with such authenticity and impact that your presence lingers in the memory of others because of what you meant to them, what you gave to them, what you represented for them. Fame fades, but influence endures. And it is influence, not fame, that makes a person unforgettable. The essence of being unforgettable lies in alignment. When who you are, what you do, and what you stand for come together consistently, you create a life that is not easily dismissed. People may forget words you spoke, but they will remember how you lived. They will remember the strength of your example, the clarity of your convictions, the weight of your authenticity. To be unforgettable is to live in such a way that your life itself becomes a message, one that speaks long after your voice is silent. If you want to build yourself until they notice, do not stop at recognition. Build yourself until you are unforgettable. Let your life become living proof that growth is real, that resilience is powerful, that transformation is possible. Do not seek only to impress, seek to inspire. Do not settle for being noticed. Strive to be remembered for what truly mattered. When your life becomes a testimony of persistence, discipline, authenticity, and generosity, you will leave behind more than applause. You will leave behind a legacy of transformation that cannot be erased. To become unforgettable is not to live forever, but it is to live in such a way that, even when your time is over, your influence continues. It is to become proof that the hidden work was worth it, that the silence was sacred, that the struggle was necessary. It is to know that the life you built will echo beyond your days, shaping those who come after you. And when that happens, you will have achieved something greater than recognition. You will have built yourself into someone the world could not forget.